Hey everyone, this is your favorite radio host, your only radio host, Corinne Lafont, and your favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. And it's a beautiful day today. Imagine that. It's just absolutely raining. It's wet, it's moist, it's overcast. The skies are gray, but I love it. The temperature is perfect. Don't ask me what the temperature is, but it's perfect. It's cool. It's just a beautiful day. And why is it beautiful? Because I'm just thankful to be here to experience that day. I'm thankful to be alive. I feel beautiful, I look beautiful, and it's a beautiful day. Everything is just so well coordinated. Imagine that. And I have with me Chris. Chris is actually, where are you, Chris? I think you're in India. Are you back
No, I'm in Bangladesh.
You're in Bangladesh. Oh my goodness. I love doing my show because I'm able to talk to people from all over the world. They're in all different corners. And so let me tell you a bit about Chris and what we're talking about today. So Chris was born in a Christian home. Chris in a Christian home in Pennsylvania, the US. He received his bachelor's in business and worked as a manager in retail companies for 10 years. During year number 9, God told Chris that he should do full-time kingdom work. Interesting. After exploring various options, Chris went on a short-term mission trip, and after much prayer, Chris and his family moved to North Carolina to attend seminary and decided where to serve. While living overseas, Chris has done many different tasks. He loves to travel, meet new people, and experience life as he is a local. He has been married 26 plus years to a most awesome wife, and his 3 children have grown into God-loving young adults. Thank God for that. His life goal is to share the kingdom of God with Muslims and to narrow the gap between Western and non-Western cultures. What a major responsibility he has taken on. But then again, when God tells you to do something, he doesn't give you anything small to do. So, Chris, welcome to Between the Lines. How are you this morning?
Very good. Thank you. It's so good to be with you, both you in person and everyone else listening. It's a joy to be here.
Of course, it is a joy. It is a joy. Just to be alive, So, Chris,
Yes.
let's go back. I've heard people say, and I have said it myself, that God has spoken to me, God has spoken to us. And some people may not understand what that means. How can you explain to people from your experience? Because each person's experience will be different in the way he speaks to them. What was your experience as a Christian? How he spoke to you, and why do you think he came to you? Was it that you're going through something at that particular point in your life? Were you in deep meditation? Give us a bit of background that can lead us to where we are now.
Sure. That's a great question, and something really worthwhile considering. How did it all come about? For me personally, I was in a good church, very active in that church, and very active in daily Bible reading and prayer. And it started with a restlessness. I worked so many hours doing a job that I enjoyed but didn't feel fulfilled. And I thought there has to be something more. Then I read a passage, one that many people will be familiar with, that your work will be tested by fire. What is wood, hay, and straw will burn away. What is gold and will last through the fire, even though you will be saved. That's in Corinthians. And I said, oh my work, what am I doing? And that's where I got the idea of kingdom work. Now, one of the things that happened with me consistently, not only in this one major decision, but in almost every decision afterwards that I could think of that resulted in a major move or a major item, was after I took steps of faith towards that whatever was happening at the moment, God confirmed what I did. I'll give an example. I prayed about where to go. My family and I prayed, where shall we go overseas? And long story short, we ended up in northern India. And after we were there for some time, God gave us different things that confirmed, yeah, this is the place you should be. Same thing just in general overseas. Yes, this is the place you ought to be.
Okay. let's go back a little bit. You say you were not fulfilled. There are a lot of people who are not fulfilled in their jobs, who are not fulfilled in their relationship. And there's a little voice, that inner voice in them that is saying, there is more, there is better, I deserve more. Why? They're questioning, they're restless, but yet they feel the other side, the ego. I'm learning about the ego, which is that voice that chatters and talks, as opposed to that inner feeling, which is really that inner voice that is talking to you to tell you something. So you hear that voice chattering, that ego telling you, but you have to stay. It rationalizes. You have to stay in that job. You have your bills. You have your responsibilities. You have your so and so. If you leave that, you're going to be looked upon as irresponsible and and lackadaisical. And there are people who actually follow that voice and just stay where they are without really following that inner spirit to seek that fulfillment, just to take that leap of faith to see what happens next, what it is that compels you. I mean, we know it's God. Or you're saying it's God. What it is that I want persons to learn that they can follow that without having that fear of wondering what will happen next. What it is that compelled you to know it was the right thing to do, and to get up and get and seek that fulfillment.
Yeah, that's a big step of faith, quite honestly. And I don't want to say that it makes me better than anyone else. It's because I took a step like that. That's not true. Things worked out that I took that step, and I'm happy I did. It was not always easy, to say the least, but I'm happy we did that for 100 different reasons. And you bring up a good point about responsibilities. I can't talk to each person individually, but in general, what I would say initially is consider responsibilities as from a bigger perspective, okay? And what I'm saying there is there's many different things that pull in our lives, and most of them, or many of them, are legitimate. Family responsibilities with wife or children, financial responsibilities, which resulted I need a job to meet those financial responsibilities, civic responsibilities, etc., etc. But then there's also one more responsibility that you do not, and I do not want to neglect nor forget about. I need to consider my responsibility to God. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that I'm saying that everyone should be overseas. I believe more people ought to be in a missional frame than there are, but I can't answer for each person which they should do. But I can say, and I do not want people to neglect the responsibility towards God, whatever that might mean for you.
No, I'm listening to you and I'm connecting with you, Chris. And I want to. No, I am. I want you to understand something, and I want our listeners, those who are listening to this and those who will be listening, at what point you need to be in your spiritual relationship with God in order to make that decision. So I am sensing that you said you pray daily, you did daily meditation. A lot of us are not there yet. Yeah, we may pray on occasions, and some of us are on the last minute. We go to God at the last minute and in times of danger and in need. Right? He's always the last resort. We do everything the DIY approach, and then we go to him last, as opposed to go to him first. So where do you have to be on the continuum of your spiritual journey, of that relationship with him, to trust him, to trust yourself, to know that that is the right decision to make?
Yeah. Let me brag on my wife, if I could, for a minute, because and it's in a funny story. She can tell it better than myself, but I'll do my best anyway. I came back from my first mission trip feeling a great relief and a sense of, okay, here's where we're headed. I'm a very big picture person, so I came back to her with a huge smile And I said, I know what we're supposed to do for the kingdom of God. We're supposed to move overseas and do work there. She's a very detailed person, and she looked at me and she said, yeah, God didn't tell me that. But here's the point. And it was, not at the moment. I was kind of deflated a little bit, but it turns out in a good way. To her credit, she was reading her Bible every day, and then she would walk the neighborhood. We lived in a city. She would walk the neighborhood and pray every day before I went to work. Mm-hmm. First week she prayed, God changed Chris's mind. I don't want to go. This is a true story. Second week she said, God, change your mind. I don't want to go. Third week, change your mind. I don't want to go, because Chris still wants to go. And finally, to her credit, the fourth week she prayed, God changed my heart. And the way she tells the story today is, she said it was an act of obedience. She said it came down to, am I going to obey or am I going to disobey? That's what it came down to for her. And by God's grace, she did. Now, she's a detailed person, so she blew me away. She came up with a list of like 50 things, big things that we had to do before we could move to seminary. But, it's like, oh, I didn't think about all that. But it all got done, and, we've been doing that kind of thing for quite some time now. When we moved to seminary, then the idea was, we're going overseas. Let's get rid of our things, because you can only take what fits in a suitcase, and
wow.
That type of thing.
That requires deep spiritual relationship. If it's you alone, Chris, that's one thing. You're talking
Right.
about a wife and 3 children.
Oh yeah.
We're not talking about you alone, packing a bag, throwing a little satchel over your back and just wandering off. You're taking a wife and 3 children. I could tell that the relationship you have with your wife is extremely strong, and your 3 children, for you to come to them and say, I know what God tells me to do, and we're doing this. And for her to be on board, and for your kids to be like so obedient, and you just follow. People may be looking at you and say, what a crazy family is this? You leave.
It's true.
Yeah. And when you look back at the people in the Bible, people must have said the same thing about Moses and Abraham and everybody else. You guys are crazy. What are you talking about? God telling you this, the burning bush, parting the Red Sea, staff turning into whatever. You guys are crazy. I am not seeing this God. Who is talking to you? What do you mean he told you to do this or do that? Why are you disrupting your children and your family and taking them off into the wilderness when you have a good life here? All your amenities. You can go shopping. You can provide them the best of the best. Why?
Yeah, people over here ask me that question too, because a lot of people, I lived in India for 9 years, now we've been in Bangladesh 5 years, I guess, 2013 until current, so 4 or 5 years, 5 years. And people ask me, because they want to leave the country, they want to get to the West. Here I come the other direction.
You're going to.
Yeah. But quite honestly, and this took a time to learn, I'm still not there. I don't know that I'll ever be there, but I'm moving in a certain direction, and our family moved there also. Defining what do you want and what do you need. One of the things that helped, and it just happened to be the way I'm saying that wrong. It's the way God made me. Is quite honestly how it is. But one of the things was, we lived in a city of 6 million when we first came overseas. And I thought to myself, the people here can live and survive and thrive. So why can't I? So I tried to learn how to do that. In time, I kind of did, not perfectly, but I kind of did. But what we decided we wanted and what we decided we needed, that definition changed 100%.
Wow.
And it's still changing. And you want, just a simple thing. I want a Pepsi or a Coca-Cola, but I need water. Doesn't mean I don't drink soda at all. Just means I'm learning to be satisfied with water if that's available. and it's a want for something bigger than that. Now, by God's grace, I get to fulfill a lot of those wants, but sometimes I don't, and I thank God for what He gives me. We have a couple of funny experiences where we didn't get what we wanted, but we lived through it. Let's see, we were at language school one time. The whole family was there. Beautiful setting up in the mountains of India. And I mean, it just was drop dead gorgeous. However, you got 2 buckets of water a day, whether you wanted them or not. So for a family of 5 with 2 buckets of water, you had to really be careful how you use that. And it got used well, because you had laundry sometimes, you had to bathe children.
Wow.
On and on it went. And that wasn't a long-term thing, but a short-term thing, a couple weeks. And it's like, well, I want a lot more water than this.
A couple of weeks is a long time. One day is a long time.
But I want a lot more water than this. And when I left language school and went back to my home, I got plenty of water, but we survived.
Yeah. Wow. No, I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm hearing humility. I'm hearing simplicity. I'm hearing getting off of that pedestal. I'm hearing a removal from the materialistic way of life, which really we cannot take with us when we leave this earth. All these things that we surround ourselves with that define us or that we think defines us doesn't. And we need to move to the point of living such a simple life, because when we look at when Jesus walked this earth and as man, flesh and blood, he never had all these things. I mean, the man didn't have Walmart to go to and all these different places. He lived in sandals, very simple wear, no couture or brand name outfits. He was very, very simple, and he just seemed more at peace with himself. He seemed more at peace with himself, and people were able to come to him as the master and revered him for somebody for advice. It's more of an inward peace when everybody else was more outward and looking outward for answers. He looked inward. He looked inward.
Well said. Yeah, that's very well said. I think also by not having so many things, he was very mobile. Now that was that was true of that culture, but the less you have, the quicker you can pick up and go if that needs to be the case. So it doesn't mean I don't have anything at all. I have plenty of stuff, but just that ability he had to let's go here, let's go there, and I really respect that and want to become like that.
Yeah, I never even thought about that actually until you brought it up. He became mobile because I'm like, he just moved from place to place, literally walking. I mean, the man didn't take a train or a cab or any such thing or a plane. Everything was by walking. Wow. So why Bangladesh or why India in particular? Why do you think he told you to go there? And I mean, how did you make the move from the US to there? I mean, of course you took a plane, but I'm thinking, did you know where you were going? Did you make arrangements with somebody over there to say we are coming to live over there? Did you make any plans, put things in place, logistics?
Yeah, we did. The way it worked with the organization we're associated with, they gave us multiple choices, but they gave us very little details on each one of those locations. They gave more or less a job title and a location. We looked up all the different job titles. There was maybe 15 or 20 total. I think at one point then we did get a job description on the one we chose, but my wife prayed over the list, I prayed over the list, and we came out to the same results, which was pretty cool. One of the things that we said in the beginning, and I still feel this is true, I still fulfill this, I'm sure, I'm not going to be the best person overseas by far. I know that, but I want to go to a place that has the least amount of light, meaning the gospel light, and do my best in that spot. So, so in, let's see, we made that decision in 2002, where to go. Over, by looking at that list, we ended up in northern India and stayed there for 9 years. I love the place, which is a God-given thing. But we learned the history of the area, we made friends, learned the culture, and we really enjoyed it. We did have a lot of stress in that place. There was different issues that were very stressful. Eventually, we left that place in 2013. During our tougher times, we prayed to leave, but God didn't give us a release. And my wife was probably more steadfast than I was. But even still, we stayed there until He did give us a release. Now, initially, when we went over, we met a supervisor, but he only remained in the city for 2 days. We met another American who was is a very good friend of ours even to this day. However, he was pretty busy, so we were given a hotel, introduced to a real estate agent, and learned the city on our own, and learned the place on our own. It took us 9 days to move into an apartment, and then we just explored and learned and met people. By God's grace, we met a man who was already involved in a lot of work, so he introduced us to a lot of his things, and that helped dramatically. Then in 2013, we made another move from India to Bangladesh, once again, a place where there's very little gospel light. So that's just a place that God led us. Just like going to India, after we arrived in Bangladesh for some time, God confirmed, yes, this is a place I have an important role for you to pursue while you're here. Now, I know I'm going on and on and on after your question, but
go.
Last year, we were in the U.S. for almost 1 year. We had different family things to attend to, and we visited churches and things like that. We were busy, but we weren't overseas. While we were there, we prayed, should we go back overseas or not? And we prayed really hard about that. Not sure, because it is a stressful life. It's not an easy life. But God did say, yes, you should be overseas. So, once again, okay, Lord, that's what we'll do. By now, these days, our children are grown. So right now, it's just my wife and I. The apartment is very quiet without little children.
Yeah.
So
you are saying that there are confirmations that He gave you. I want you to give an example of what are some of those confirmations that He gave you to know that you were doing the right thing.
What He did was He gave me a love for the place. He gave me very close friends that I have. Actually, it's interesting. Bangladesh, I have closer friends than I did in India. I get invited to weddings. I get invited into people's homes. Yeah. I meet parents and all kinds of family members. I get invited to villages. It's just Bangladesh is different. India wouldn't do that. India was very kind on the street, but they didn't invite you into their home very quickly.
Yeah.
And then, so that is one of the things. The friends, the love for the place, the feeling of fulfillment for what I'm doing. There's always a twinge inside that says I could be doing more, or am I doing my best? Is there more I could be doing? There's always a twinge that way. But it is a fulfillment that, yeah, this is a significant role that you're playing at this moment.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing there. So those are the types of things. Just the ability to live in a third world country. India was a second world country, and Bangladesh is definitely a third world country.
Yeah. The difference between the U.S. and the Western and the Eastern, and I mean, you have lived there, and I think I read where you said, like, you just can't live in the U.S. anymore. It's like, it's just different with the exposure you have had. What are some of the lessons you have learned in exposing yourself through God's work, through your mission, that you can share with the listening audience, that can encourage those who are getting that voice, who, feeling that restlessness, I want them to be able to get up and get themselves and know that they may be missing out on something that God is trying to teach them, or that they need to learn, or that they need to discover to make them a better person, and they're actually preventing themselves from that growth.
Okay. There's a couple of things, but the first thing that jumped to my mind when you said that was the difference between an active culture and a passive culture.
Mm.
I'm going to make an assumption that I may or may not be correct in, but I'm going to make an assumption that your home country is a passive culture.
Yeah.
And the States is not.
Mm.
I remember one time in seminary class, we had to write a paper, and he said, you're not allowed to have one passive sentence at all in the entire paper. India and Bangladesh and many other countries are passive. So passive means to be, not to do. And I think about Jesus, and I think he was that way. I truly do. His culture was that way, and I think he was too. I get inspiration, and I think a lot about the two of his two stories. One is Jairus' daughter. At that time, Jesus was coming out of the temple. Someone came up to him and said, my master's daughter is sick. Will you come? And he turned and immediately went with that person. The second part of that is Lazarus. Lazarus was sick, and Jesus waited 2 days to finish what he was doing, and then took a 2-day journey to go to Lazarus. Now, of course, he knew what he was going to do, but he waited that long. And I sometimes I wonder, should I turn left? Should I turn right? Should I wait? Should I go? But I want to be in the spirit, if I can use that terminology, enough to get a sense which way to go. Some days I do, some days I don't. But I want to do that. I also want to be a believer, meaning I want to live out or live by an example. Doesn't mean I don't talk to anyone, and share with anyone. I do that. But I also want to live by an example. So, and I'm going to give a practical example of what we do. Once again, I'm bragging on my wife because she's, like I said in the bio, she's amazing. When we go out, she's very respectful of the culture, and so am I. So she dresses just like the local people. Actually, she barely has any Western clothes because we spend almost all our time overseas, or the majority of our time overseas. But then second thing that she does, not only does she wear the Bangladeshi clothing, but then she goes out and she covers her head. Now, as a Westerner, she does not have to do that. Some people do, some people do not. But it's a sign of deep respect for the culture when you do that. So whenever we go out, she has her head covered. And I have received so many comments, wow, that's so good that you do that. And it looks good on me, quite honestly. I don't force her to do that, but she chooses to do it, and it really helps. Those little things really help. That's an example of being a believer, because you're respecting in a way that gains you an audience.
So it's better to be than to do. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know better than, but it's something you don't want to neglect it. One of the characteristics of being a pastor, it's listed that they should be hospitable. And there's a whole line of different things that they should be in Titus and Timothy, but one of the things is hospitable. And I think that's a great thing to do. That's another thing that I've learned overseas is hospitality.
Yes.
The door is always open. It's much more important to talk to a person than to finish and sit with a person than to finish a to-do list.
Yeah. I agree with that approach. That's how I live. It's a mark of respect. It's a mark of respect. It comes like it comes like I'm talking to you. Let's say we were sitting in a coffee shop or something, and I have my phone between us texting. That is just disrespectful. I'm not giving you the time, the acknowledgement, the respect of your time and presence with me. I just find it disrespectful that phones come out and the person is ignored. you know, because I value people. I value a human being. I love people, and I think, you know, we should have that mark of respect. So I would have probably done like your wife did as well, and understand the culture. You're in a new country. You need to understand how the Romans live in Rome,
Hmm.
yeah, and adapt, or else why are you there? You know, just like
Right.
how you would travel to Cuba or any Spanish speaking country, and it really brings a joy to them that you're making the effort to understand their language and appreciate and learn, you know.
Hmm.
Yes, I would have done the same and try to understand why I need to cover my head, why I need to wear this particular type of clothing, why, you know, why are they doing it? It shows an expansion of your mind and a flexibility, as opposed to being closed and just feel that your way in the US is the way and everybody must adapt. Everybody else in the world must adapt to this way because this is the way. No, that is not how we are supposed to live. We are supposed to live as a human being, appreciating each other's cultures and values, etc.
I'm going to say no comment to what you just said, but I agree with you 100%.
Now I wanna touch on something here because you married a wonderful woman, 26 plus years. I'm going to go back into your past now.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you know when you were courting your wife, when you were, you know, getting together with her, that this is going to be the woman now? Or did you see that then? Or did you pray? What did you do to be able to get this particular woman that can be at your side in such a way?
That was really God's work there. I joke with my wife that I was thinking about all those things when she was walking down the aisle, but she says, "Yeah, I know you weren't thinking about any of that." And so yeah, she's right. I that was really God's doing. We did make a few commitments in advance, which were that were very helpful because when I worked in business, I moved often with different companies or different locations. And before we got married, we decided that my income was most important, and wherever my job took us, she would go there. So we made that in advance. Um, she worked until the our first child was born, and then we did some quick math. What's the price of daycare and what's the price of her income? And it came out to be that there's no sense for her to work. She was worried about that. But then after some time, she said, no, I'm glad I'm with the children. And she always has been since then. But that was God's doing, that he brought us together and we grew together that way. Okay, I was married in 1991. And the idea of ministry or kingdom work started in 1998 or thereabouts.
Hmm.
That happened partially because we were at a very small but very active church for a few years prior to that. And from that church, we went out, you know, and went beyond.
Wow.
So but that was really God's doing, and then just growth either in her or in myself that we've gotten to this point.
Yeah.
Which we like. I like the word you use, a journey, because I use that word also.
Yes.
And saying that, well, I say it from both angles. Quite honestly, what I don't know when my final day is. None of us do, but until that day, I would like to, and I pray that I continue to grow closer to Christ. Be more like him. Quite honestly,
Yeah.
some days I take steps forward, and some days I take leaps backwards. Okay,
Yeah.
that's an honest confession. That's probably true for a lot of people.
Hmm.
But I'm going to move forward. Now, what I do is I use that example, especially when I'm doing teaching, and I say, now, what my desire is to go meet somebody who's not there to the point of faith yet, but I want to help them move towards the point of faith.
Hmm.
And once they have that faith, all right, I want to journey with them till they have that faith. But then I don't want them to stop there. because God doesn't want that either.
Yes.
But it's not a list to be checked off. Repeat a sinner's prayer and get baptized. That's not a check-off list. Yes, you need to come to faith, and that's what God wants. But then at that point, you continue to move on that journey until you see Him face to face.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How old? What's the ages of your children, Chris?
Oh, that's you should answer, Mom. Hold on. Let's see. Don't 19, 21, and 23 would be.
Why is it that the women always seem to know off the bat and the men don't know?
I can tell you their date of birth. I just don't do the math so quick. So half the time I get my age wrong too.
Are they all what, boys, girls combination?
My daughter is the oldest. She was 9 when we went overseas. She's married and living in South Africa.
Wow.
And let's see. Then my son just finished university this past spring, and he is in the States. He just found a job, which we're very thankful for. Mm-hmm. And we think he'll get engaged this month or next. Not sure which, but that's what the plan is. Mm-hmm. And then our youngest finished 1 year of university. He'll start his second year soon, another week or two.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So
that's great. So your kids are well adjusted, normal, quote unquote normal, moving around and taking them all over the world does not disrupt their life, and they actually got that global exposure and relationship with God. So I don't want people thinking that when you're doing God's work, your children suffer, you put them in a position of disrepair. I don't want people to think that. They actually turn out to be very well.
I'll be honest, it wasn't always easy, and there were times when they were not pleased with all the decisions we made. But they look back on it and appreciate the experience. My daughter struggled moving back to the States because she was so accustomed to Asia and that mindset that living in the States was hard for her. Yeah. And quite honestly, moving to South Africa really made a difference, really helped her immensely. Because it's a much more international place.
Yes.
My son went to 4 years of school, and his school did a pretty good job with internationals, which he was considered one of them. He struggled some, but he's adapted pretty well. Mm-hmm. And my youngest is, he's doing okay. He has a group of friends he still knows he's a little different than all of them, but he has some friends who can understand him. Actually, some of the close friends he has were kids that were from overseas.
Okay, great.
And that's probably a universal fact. Any child who grew up overseas, especially if they grew up in culture, will seek out someone else who grew up overseas.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just you and your lovely wife alone now. Yes. What a life. Yeah, kids running around. But don't worry, the grandkids are going to come and join you.
Yes, I hope so. We thank God for Skype, because we use that often with the children.
Oh yes. Just like how we're using Zoom for this, you have Skype, there's so much technology, FaceTime, all sorts of things now, WhatsApp, all sorts of things now to connect. I want to go back a little bit to when you said that you moved to Bangladesh. You mentioned a job description. So was it a job sort of thing that you applied for and you were able to get?
I had to be, how would I say it? It wasn't like an application process, but it was that the supervisor had to agree that I could come.
Okay.
I had to be confirmed for that thing. Quite frankly, the job description didn't really fit it fits a little bit what I do, but not exactly, because I have a lot of freedom. Mm-hmm. Currently I am the team leader for Chittagong Division, which is like a state, only in in this country.
Mm.
One of the things that Bangladesh is known for is so many people. So in my area, there's 28 million,
Wow.
probably more than that. More than 2,000 people per square mile.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have a lot of people to meet, and we can't go to all of those.
Yeah.
But I supervise a group of nationals who work with others, so it's a network that way.
Okay. What has been
And
the impact of your work over the years thus far? You have gone to do God's work.
mhm,
Did he give you, I mean, we talk about not having a checklist, but did you have an idea
right.
of what you were going to do? I mean, you had no idea what you were going to meet, but let's work with the word list. Did he give you a list and say, Chris, this is what I want you to do? And you're going to use that now to be able to look back and say, well, I did this, I did that, I did that.
No, there was no list. There was, let's see, there were things that happened. A lot of them fell within my comfort zone. No, not comfort zone, but things that I'm adapted for. So, how would I explain that? I have, God gave me an ability to adapt to a lot of things. So, what that meant was I was able to go out with a national, at that time an Indian, and be like him and do what he does from my first or second month in the country. And that made a big impact on some people, especially the workers. Because if this Westerner can do it, then why can't we?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Then, let's see. After about year 3, I met a close partner. I made a close partner, and through him, a lot of kingdom work happened. And by God's grace, we saw a good bit of results.
Mm-hmm.
By God's grace.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a perfect relationship, but was a good relationship. And that work still exists, not to the extent it did, but it still exists. And even last month, I was back there to visit some of the people. When I moved to Bangladesh, I worked under another man for a while, but then he retired and I took over for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then my job and my desires became much more driven in the area of vision casting,
Mm-hmm.
and giving direction as far as how to work with the local people. There is a lot of fear among believers to go out and reach the local people. So I'm trying to work through that.
Mm-hmm.
Added to that, I enjoy and I've made a lot of friends, as I said. So I do a lot of the work myself. I mean, I'm only one person, but I do what I practice what I'm trying to teach others to do also.
Okay. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the challenges that you came upon, and how did you overcome them? And I have a follow-up question to that. You talk about God equipping you with the necessary skills, abilities, because that is one of the things that we tend to fear. God is telling us to do something, and we're like, I don't know how to do that, but He wouldn't give it to you if He didn't know that you have the ability, or will give you what you need. So yeah,
That's
how
very true.
yes, and that's where the faith comes in. So what are some of the challenges you came upon, how you overcame it, and what were some of the things that He equipped you with that you didn't think that you had?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. Some, and it came from different. Some were internal and some were external, and probably the internal ones were more difficult than the external ones, because you're growing as a person and as a believer. Or at least you hope you're growing,
Hmm.
but then you're at the same time you're trying to share what what you already have or from what you have. Some of the challenges that we dealt with language by neither one of us, my wife or I, are gifted in language, and that was a big thing even to this day. That we struggle with, but we don't have that gift to learn it. Some of the other challenges is to work with other people within our organization. We've had struggles with that over time. We have grown and we have gotten better at that, quite honestly. But we had a personality of being not from New York, but close to New York. And if maybe there's a reputation there or not, but we were strong-willed and vocal in our ideas. We learned that we needed to curb that.
Yeah.
And over time, we have. We're not perfect at it, but we proofread emails before we send them out. Depending on what the topic is. We look at each other's work that way. We try to think before we speak. So there's a I can say most anything to my wife. She can say most anything to me, and if it stays within those two, it's okay. But we don't always say things out loud that we think. I pray someday that I would get to a point I wouldn't even think these negative thoughts, but I'll just keep praying and try to curb my words. The other big issue, quite honestly, and we deal with this right now a lot, is spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Just honestly, the work that we're trying to do in some places, or even things that we're not trying to do, but things that are being done, you see spiritual warfare working against that. It probably is not a personal thing in a sense, but definitely Satan does not want the kingdom to grow. And you can see that in different ways. And then one more struggle I'll share would be, and this is a personal one, it's perceived that Westerners are very rich, some of them, and compared to the local people, they probably are. At least they're middle class. We received so many requests for money that it was really difficult for us. And we don't receive as many now, but overall we did, and we still do. And it gets stressful, but some days you want to help, and some days you just, it's too much.
Yeah, the perception. You see, the media helps in creating that perception of the West having a lot of money and stuff like that. Yeah. But I want to touch on the spiritual warfare, and that's a very big challenge worldwide. How do you, God overcomes all of that. We know that. There's no doubt, light always wins over darkness, always, no matter how long it takes. How do you deal with that over there, dealing with that, knowing that the evil one really is doing his best to avoid God's presence being there?
Well, I'll tell you, in India, and I was not the only one that said this, there were several people who agreed with me, or I agreed with them. Where we lived in India, it seemed as if, or it felt as if there was an oppression. So that what happened was, you'd go there ready to do things, you'd go in your city ready to do things, and after 1 week or 2 weeks, you felt as if you were there 6 months. And you were tired. It didn't stop you from doing what you needed to do, but you felt tired, and you felt like, oh, I need a vacation or I need a break. And you think, oh, when was it that I had my last break? And you look on the calendar, and it was only 2 weeks ago. So, and I think that was a spiritual thing. My friend said it was for the entire state that we lived in. I said, I know it's in the city where we're at. And like I said, you pressed on because you couldn't really take a vacation every 2 weeks, whether you wanted one or not. So you pressed on. I had an idea that I would take a break every 4 times in a year, but quite frankly, I didn't do that. 2 times in a year probably was what I was able to do, and that was with our organization. They had meetings out of the country 2 times a year. Now that I'm in Bangladesh, I see it a little bit different. Here, I see a stronghold where the gospel does not spread. I see a lot of fear, even among the people, the Islamic and Hindu people, that you have to hedge your bets, is the idiom I would use, meaning that you trust in God, trust in Allah, this kind of thing, but you need to do something else to make sure that you'll be safe, or do several things before to make sure you're safe. I see that all the time. Then what I also see is just attacks on where you're doing good work. How do you handle that? Lots of prayer. Quite frankly, I probably don't pray enough, but lots of prayer is required for that. The second thing is people to pray for you. I have a group of people that I send an email out every Monday morning, a short one. Here's what we're doing this week, and here's what we need prayer for this week. And then I send out a monthly newsletter that gives general, here's what we're doing, here's a short Bible study, and here's some other interesting things about our lives or something like that.
Yes, I've received that newsletter.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, I never miss. I can, with all honesty, I can say 99.5% of the time that letter has gone out the first of the week and the first of the month, or those letters.
Wow. So. Wow, Chris. I know we have gone over time, but
yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's how it ends up on my show. I never do 30 minutes. Never. I tell people 30, and I never. I'm working on that. I'm working on that. But
I really like talking to you. So you ask great questions.
Thank you very much. I've been getting that feedback a lot. All my guests say the same thing. And this is why I can't do 30 minutes, because when you're talking about something that is so deep and interesting, and all the topics and guests that come on my show, I can't cut them off at the 30-minute mark. I just can't do it, because I believe in giving value. I want when somebody listens to this episode that they're able to glean from it. It does something for them. They are moved, they're taken, they're able to take some form of action, this is for posterity reasons. I have a question for you. At least I thought I did, but we started talking and it slipped my mind. But okay, it came back to me. What, in your experience, your years of experience, and on this journey and committing yourself to Christ and His work, what is the one thing? It's kind of hard to ask for three, but if you have three, great. But what is the one thing would you want persons to leave listening this episode with in order to live a more fulfilled life, live a life that God means for them? What is that one thing that you would want to tell someone?
Boy, that's a big question. I need to think for a moment.
I was moved to ask that. What is that one thing that you want to ask? That you want persons to know, to do?
I would say that we have to put the kingdom of God first in everything we do. Wherever we find ourselves, at any stage of life or any walk of life, we need to put the kingdom of God first. It's easy to say, but to live that out, it will mean different things to each person. But it's something that, to check ourselves. Am I, whatever I'm doing right now, is it, God honoring? Is it moving people towards the kingdom? Is it kingdom centered? And we can do that in any way. Well, anyway means in any walk of life, any stage of life, it can be done. And I'll be honest, because the flip side is there also. Just because I left the States with my family and hang out overseas, trying to reach Muslims, doesn't mean that I've accomplished what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that I make it all right. I can live here without living the kingdom of God. I have that ability, but that's not my desire.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
friends of mine say,
even if
go
you
ahead.
haven't accomplished everything that you have set out to do, you have started the journey. You have started a walk that somebody else will be able to continue.
That's right.
Somebody has to
That was
start it. Somebody has to start the race. Somebody has to start the marathon. Somebody needs to do something.
that was one of my prayers for the children, and I told them that more than once. I said, I pray for you, and I also pray for the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren.
Yes.
And I said, my desire for you and for them, well, here's how I said it. I said, my desire is that my love for God would come to you so strongly that you would influence even your grandchildren.
Yes.
And then the second thing with that is that you would do more for the kingdom of God than I have done.
Oh, yes. You see,
So,
that is something that I find a lot of us don't do. We don't pray for the generations. When I look back and I listen to other sermons, like for example, T.D. Jakes, and he talks about from the Bible, he talks about, I can't remember which story it was that he shared, but it spoke to generational prayers. The person from your ancestry prayed for you. That is why you are able to live. This is why you are able to live the life that you have. This is why certain blessings are coming to you, because your ancestors prayed for the third, fourth, fifth generation that was coming after. And you have no idea that somebody prayed for you to make the path clear for you. It's our responsibility to pray for the generations. Don't just pray for yourself and your kids,
right.
immediate family. It is our responsibility that we pray for the generations to come, deep, 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 deep down.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're correct.
Wow. Wow, Chris, continue doing the work that you're doing for the kingdom.
Thank you so much.
Even if you don't get the benefits, immediate benefits, and I mean, I know you're already benefiting in whatever way.
Right.
You know the blessings. You know the blessings may not be for you. It's for your children.
Right.
It's for your children's children. And you'll be able to stand next to God one day and smile and say, looky there, looky there, yeah, you'll be smiling with him,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll be smiling with him. And a lot of us need to do a lot of inward, that inward, that introspection, and be more Christ-like, be more spiritual, be more silent, be more meditative, be more compassionate, empathetic, and open and flexible. I could continue using so many adjectives, but people will get what I mean. And listen to the voice. There's too much noise around us, Chris, and we're caught up. We're caught up, yes, with all forms of noise. And I don't mean noise like how we hear the car honking and all that. I mean just noise of busyness, perceived busyness, etc., that we are caught up in and not realizing that we need to be silent. I don't believe that when Christ was walking this earth, he had TV and all those things to distract him. He didn't have all of that. And so he had a lot of time. He had a lot of time to to meditate, to talk with his Father. Yes, and I need to go to your website. Do you have a website, Chris? I always do that at the end of my show. Yes, tell me your website. Let me bring that up.
I'll be honest, it's not a whole lot. It's pretty simple.
Okay. Yeah, simple is the way to go. Tell me the website. Let me bring it up so I can feature it.
Okay.
What's the website link?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were bringing it up.
Yeah, but tell me what is the link so I can bring it up and share it on the screen.
Here, I'll give it to you. It's based on the name that we used for my first book. And I need to spell it.
Okay, tell me.
It's Abu Daoud
Spell it for
88.
you want to send me
AB.
send me in the chat so I can copy the link.
Yeah, I did. It's
Oh,
in
you
the
did?
chat.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep, I just did now.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Hold on one second. I'm going to bring it up.
You see it?
Yeah, I got it. Hold 1 second. The internet,
Right.
the internet is kind of giving us a bit of a challenge now. All right.
And
Yeah, just give me a few.
so pretty much that just it shows the 2 books that I wrote. It's pretty much what it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. It's taking a while to come up. Yeah, removing the walls. All right.
Yep.
Let me see if I can share that screen here now. Yeah, here we go. So it's removing the walls. Are you seeing that?
There it is.
Yes.
Yep.
Missionary's journey through smooth and rough terrain. Oh, it's an editor's pick, a winner. Nice. Congrats. Yes, and you can buy the book here. And is it also on
Thank you.
Amazon?
It is.
Okay,
It
great.
is. But there's links on this page to buy it.
Okay, okay.
And then there's a second book I co-authored the other book.
Okay, I'm trying to get that one up. Is it?
The
Yeah,
Yep.
it's trying to switch. The internet is
That's,
giving us a right. Sharing Jesus with Muslims in America. I like this. Yes.
and both are very practical. Both are very conversational.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is very conversational,
Mm-hmm.
and really goes very well with our conversation today.
Oh, cool.
This one here, sharing Jesus, is very easy to use and to apply,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that we put into practice quite a bit.
Very good. Removing the walls because there aren't any walls. Walls are built up in our minds, and people create walls.
Right.
People create walls. There aren't any walls.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, removing the walls, and I like how you have the wall there. Yeah. So these are the 2 books for you: The Missionary's Journey and The Reaching Muslims. So people can get it at this particular site. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Chris. I mean, this has been an awesome discussion. I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you.
Yes, I
Same
enjoyed sharing.
here.
Yeah. This has been really, really awesome. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I know God is going to continue to bless you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
I hope your children will be able to continue the work of God, remember God in their lives and in their upcoming children's lives, and just continue building a strong bond with our Creator. I thank you. Thank you so much for being on Between the Lines.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your ministry and for your time that you gave me. Thank you for the people that you're influencing, because I know that you're influencing quite a number of people through this broadcast and through other things that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing the best that I can, and I know there's so much more in me to do. I thank you.